there's also a very strong opportunity for third parties to have success in races where one of the big two are not running a candidate. One such office is the State Board of Education District number 9. We're going to be talking right now with the Green Party candidate for that position, Paul Cardwell. Paul, welcome to the program. Now, I was just telling the audience that you're running for State Board of Education District number 9, where there is no Democrat running. Can you tell us why you decided to run for this position?
Well, I think the fictional history textbook was the deciding factor, but I've been interested in education most of my life. You're talking about gerrymandering before. District 9 has 3 counties on the Red River and goes all the way down to Grimes County, which is 2 counties away from salt water. So we're dealing with areas intentionally made so large you can't really cover them and campaign properly.
I'm sure that's a problem that you're having to face.
That's why I'm depending on a Houston station to get the word out to the southern end of my district.
So what are some of the things that the State Board of Education does? What do they do?
Well, the most influential part is in making sure that the textbooks are factual. And the current board has mucked that one up horribly.
What are some of your feelings about that? Because I'm sure that a lot of the audience has heard about all of the fights going on about what should be in history books, what should be in biology books.
Yes, and the science is coming up in the next term. So what was done to history could easily be done to science.
What was done to history?
They went to legend rather than fact. As I said, by the time it was finished, I fully expected Washington's cherry tree to be included in it, and miraculously it wasn't.
How do you feel about that? What would you have done differently?
Well, first of all, I would not, as one member of a 15-person board, I, of course, would have only one voice, but I would have been fighting to do what ultimately public opinion forced them to do, and that was to acknowledge that Jefferson was influential throughout the world, because they were going to exclude him as an important 18th century philosopher.
And this is presumably because a number of the members of the board don't agree with that philosophy.
Oh, of course. It was, as one of my first planks on my platform, that schools should educate, not indoctrinate. How to think, not what to think. And they were very strong in favor of indoctrination. The strange thing is, the vote was going very steadily, 8-7, until the primary. And the leader of this faction lost in the primary, to my opponent, incidentally. And then this was on, quote, religious, unquote, grounds. Then the vote suddenly changed to 10-5 on party grounds. And with no Democrat running in this one or in the 12th district, which is just north of Dallas, or including Dallas, north part of it, there is a strong gap in there that if the Democrats would at least support Greens on this one issue where they don't have a dog in the fight, also with Ed Lindsay for controller, which they also didn't bother to be concerned about fielding a candidate, then it could very easily tip the scales
So for anybody that lives in District 9 that does not believe in right-wing indoctrination of students when it comes to history and science, they should vote for you.
I'm all that's left.
You're all that's... So you were saying that science is...
If you don't vote for Ed and me, you are voting Republican.
That's because that's the only other choice. Now, you were saying, though, that science is next for the State Board of Education. What do you mean by that?
In this term, yes.
What do you mean by that?
The textbooks are up for approval.
And what's going to be involved in that?
Who knows? But if you have the same majority as the 8 to 7 run in the last board, I shudder to think, because they are very anti-science. Mm-hmm. They sometimes flat out say so, and certainly imply that science is something satanic, which would, of course, very much surprise all the clergy that have made such advances in science, from Copernicus on to Robert Batter.
You know, one of the really big flashpoint issues when it comes to this sort of discussion is, creationism and intelligent design. And presumably some of these people on the board are going to be pushing both of those to be in Texas schools. What's your opinion on that?
Well, my father was a Methodist minister in the North Texas Conference, and he also was the discoverer of 3 Upper Cretaceous fossils. I was on fossil digs when I was still horizontal. I grew up with no problem between the two. I am no atheist, and neither was he. But we're both scientists in that we use the scientific principle. And I really am flummoxed as to where they're coming from on this. They seem to have created a deity that acts as they would if they had the power. Mm-hmm. Now, this is sort of making God in their image, not the other way around. And I'll argue against it on theological grounds as well as on scientific.
But the point is, though, that science is not a religious issue.
No. When Thomas Huxley wrote his famous essay on agnosticism, he didn't mean agnostic as, I don't know if God exists or not. He meant that you cannot prove or disprove the existence of God by the scientific method, so use science for science. Mm-hmm. Theology is a faith statement, and therefore there is no conflict. And they try to create one so that they not only get their theology indoctrinating the kids, but also the political ideals that come with it.
And it's certainly not something that belongs in Texas textbooks.
Or any other textbook.
We're going to have to leave it there. Paul Cardwell, he's running for the State Board of Education District Number 9, where there is no Democratic candidate. The only choice is between himself and a Republican. Thank you very much for being on the show, Paul.
Well, there is a Libertarian.
Oh, I'm sorry. So there's another choice, but Paul is the right choice for District 9.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you very much for calling in, Paul.
Thank you for having me on.
Okay.